Okay, I wanted to show you some of what I would like to see measured, or what I would measure if I were coming down there. And you'll miss some things, but the more information you can provide, the better. So I'm showing an example basement floor plan. Yours might not be a straight rectangle, but I think it is. And then what I really need on that basement level, you see these ones in the squares, 160 by 396. That is the total length and the total width of the basement from interior wall to interior wall. The second thing I would need is the size of the joists, whether those are 2 by 10s and are they at 16 inches on center. And I would measure those to see if they're old style full 10-inch or 9 1/4. Another thing is the height, which I always just circle it in this number here, and that's from the concrete floor to the bottom of the floor joists. Finally, there will be some sort of a main beam that goes down through here, and you would measure from that stone wall to the beginning of the beam, then the thickness of the beam, that's that little arrow here, and then from this side of the beam to that. And so those three dimensions there ought to equal whatever this dimension is here. Lastly, there will be various columns across here, so it would be good if those were diagrammed, whether these go into stone wall or have their own pilasters. And here's where a lot of photographs will come in handy. On each of these floors, I would just, maybe you make a short film and just to show what is happening down there. Now these little dimensions down here on the inside, these are showing those little windows. And so I come up to the edge of the window opening, then the window opening, then the next, from all the way over to this window, that window, and the last bit. For the stairs, I always measure from the stone wall to the beginning of the first riser and count how many risers there are. And if you also want to show down there where the gas meter is, where the water meter is, that's also helpful. But again, a short film would be handy as far as that goes. And I don't really know if this is going to be helpful having you do this, but I think it will. And you don't have to get everything, but the better idea you can give me of how that's laid out so that I can make some drawings before I come down there, and then together we can add in all of these various dimensions I'm showing. Again, for each room it would be helpful to have, the width in both directions, which I always just put in a square so I know that's the total width. And when I'm showing these windows, I measure up to the edge of the casing, and then from the outside of the casing to the outside of the casing. That's why I say OC. And then you have to measure how wide is the casing itself, which is usually 5 or 6 inches on an old house like this. So you come up to the edge of the casing, outside of casing to outside of casing, casing to the wall. Then we need how thick that wall is. It should be about 5 1/2. And that's just, you measure the flat part of that wood jamb. None of the casing, just the flat part of the jamb will tell you how thick that jamb is. And then the rest of these dimensions, you have to indicate which way the doors are swinging. And again, this 49 would be just outside casing to outside casing. The stairs are the same as I said in the basement. You measure from that. And all these dimensions should be taken in inches, and they should all be taken from the plaster surface, not from the baseboard. So you would measure from the plaster surface of here to the beginning of that first riser. Outside on this front porch, you would measure the brick up to the edge of that square column, like pilaster base, the width of that, then up to the masonry opening of the brick of that window, and then from the masonry opening to the edge of the masonry opening here, masonry opening up to the edge of that square, and then the last piece of brick over here. So we should have, it wouldn't hurt if you just hooked a tape measure on the end of this and measured the whole length of that wall as well. Same thing going this way. So this is the type of thing I'm looking for. So the more information you can provide, the better. It might have to be on bigger paper. And I'm not positive again how you get that over to me, whether you photo it and I'm able to make the translations, but I thought this might at least help move things along before I make it down there, which is presumably going to be sometime in the week after this coming week. Finally, if nothing else, you don't have to get all this data, but if you give me the size of these rooms and the layout, how these walls are, that would be a good start. And I know that's probably even complicated too, but a short film on each of these floors will help me put it together, and then maybe you can adjust it. So that is all for now. Just wanted to show you some of that. These ceiling heights, don't forget your ceiling height here, and don't forget how many risers do we go up from the first floor to the second. And at the second floor, you'll also want that ceiling height. Need that. And it goes on, so you can see how a person would spend 5 or 6 hours doing both of those houses. I can't imagine getting the first one done in less than 3 hours or so. So that's the best I can do right now, and I'm sure that we will talk and be in touch. Feel free to call at any time.